Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. The Trump administration is now threatening to put down the people of Minneapolis with military force as if they were rebels against the United States government. Chaos is being visited on the city and neighboring areas by 3,000 armed mass federal agents, a number that totals more than all the combined law enforcement in the area. It includes the shooting of a man in the leg just last night that led to even more protests, which led agents to launch gas canisters and flashbangs at residents, including a father just trying to evacuate his young children in his car. Trump posting this morning, quote, "If the corrupt politicians of Minnesota don't obey the law and stop the professional agitators and insurrectionists from attacking the patriots of ICE who are only trying to do their job, I will institute the Insurrection Act." Donald Trump wants to use the Insurrection Act of 1807 badly. It gives the president limited authority to use the military for law enforcement, and he wants to use it to sic the U.S. Army on American cities, plain as day. In the past 24 hours, two top Trump officials who have been orchestrating the ICE raids around the country are out there laying the groundwork, quite obviously, for Trump to do it.
This is clearly an insurgency against the federal government. They are describing the federal government as an occupying force to incite violent insurrection from organized agitators against federal forces.
I discussed with the president this morning several things that we are dealing with under the department and different operations. We did discuss the Insurrection Act. He certainly has the constitutional authority to utilize that.
Now, aside from like the obvious bad faith and lying happening here, there's two really important pieces of context. The first is that Donald Trump clearly believes the Insurrection Act is a magic wand he can wave to eliminate opposition. And we know this because he said as much the first time he threatened to invoke it back in 2020.
If a city or state refuses to take the actions that are necessary to defend the life and property of their residents, then I will deploy the United States military and quickly solve the problem for them.
Do you remember that Republican Senator Tom Cotton even wrote that very controversial op-ed in the New York Times calling for Trump to drop the Army airborne divisions on U.S. cities? Trump wanted troops in the street who would shoot protesters in the legs. And the only reason he didn't get that was because his advisors at the time, including, crucially, the Secretary of Defense, restrained him. And now we know no such restraints exist. This has been very clear from the first mass deployment of masked ICE agents last year in Los Angeles. They have been plainly, obviously, strenuously trying to engineer a pretext for invoking the Insurrection Act against the very people protesting against their overreach. And I got to say, in some ways, taking a step back, one of the most remarkable stories of the last 6 months or so has really been the tremendous discipline and restraint of people protesting. And I mean, to be clear, I don't want to gloss over this, right? There were some cars that got burned in L.A. that first weekend, definitely. After last night's shooting by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, some protesters spray-painted anti-ICE messages on a car believed to have been used by federal agents. Some broke into other cars. But again, we're talking like thousands and thousands of these incidents have been happening all over the country now for months. And those isolated incidents are different than what they are falsely claiming. They say there is just this widespread wanton violence by organized paid agitators incited by Minnesota officials. It's ludicrous. I mean, just to point one thing out, Minnesota officials have been doing the complete opposite quite consistently. I don't know if you've been watching this, but for instance, today Governor Tim Walz put this message on his social media, quote, "I'm making a direct appeal to the president. Let's turn the temperature down. Stop this campaign of retribution. This is not who we are." And an appeal to Minnesotans. I know this is scary. We must speak out loudly, urgently, but also peacefully. We cannot fan the flames of chaos. That's what he wants. Same message Jacob Frey, the mayor of Minneapolis, has used. Same message I've heard from every Democratic elected official in Minnesota. Basically, don't take the bait. Don't give them what they want. If you resort to lighting things on fire or property damage or any kind of assault or violence, that is going to be the pretext, the tripwire to do the thing they want to do, which is to send the troops in and start shooting. And what's been evident to everyone, again, look at these images, right? We're all seeing them every day. There is chaos in Minnesota. It's being almost entirely caused by our own federal government. Donald Trump's government, the government that is supposed to protect and serve us and defend us, the government that we all pay for. It's being caused by that government, by the DHS agents that he has mobilized. They're the ones creating the chaos. They're the ones creating the disorder. They are the ones going door to door. They're the ones randomly ripping people from cars and workplaces and stores and bus stops. They're the ones egregiously, systematically violating our most cherished civil rights as Americans. And one thing Stephen Miller said was true, weirdly. When you talk to regular Minnesotans, what they say is that it does feel like an occupation.
I'm protesting the invasion that we have in the city.
We didn't fight wars so we could have this happen in America. I think he's making war on our state in the same way as Venezuela and Greenland.
Sounds like you don't fit the definition of the...
No, I'm not paid to be here like everybody says. What the is that? I gotta work in the goddamn morning, just like everybody else. I'm just here trying to stand up for community, dude. We're all human beings here. I don't give a who you are, where you came from, what color you are. It doesn't matter. This is wrong.
Part of this is by design because Donald Trump fundamentally sees parts of this country, and there are many of them, that didn't vote for him in large majorities. He sees those parts of the country, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the Twin Cities, Chicago, LA, New York, you name it, as enemy territory, and that they need to be subdued by force if necessary.
They're very corrupt people. It's a very corrupt state. I feel that I won Minnesota. I think I won it all 3 times. Nobody's won it since Richard Nixon won it many, many years ago. I won it all 3 times, in my opinion. And it's a corrupt state, a corrupt voting state.
Viewer, you know already, but I feel duty-bound to point it out. He did not win Minnesota all 3 times. He lost it all 3 times. Minneapolis, Los Angeles, D.C., New York, now maybe Maine, another state Trump has lost 3 times. Authorities say they expect the cities of Portland and Lewiston to be next on ICE's occupation list. In fact, we'll be speaking to the Maine governor, Janet Mills, on that later in the show. So that's all vital piece of context, right? Like the desire, the itchiness, the obvious itchiness to be able to unleash the troops against Americans, a thing that they keep talking about and threatening and want to do. There's another piece of context here, which is that in my lifetime, only one person has ever actually led a violent insurrection against the U.S. government. Donald Trump on January 6, 2021. Inciting the deadly assault on the Capitol and its police in hopes of overturning a free and fair election, of ending American democratic rule. And he was indicted for it. He was set to be tried for it until his hand-picked Supreme Court saved him from it by fabricating a new legal theory. And then when he won that election, which was a free and fair election, he won it. And then his first day, he promptly released every single last person that engaged in the insurrection he had led. And that included the ones that had assaulted police officers, thrown things at them, beaten them in the head, tried to crush them indoors. It involved the people that are convicted of seditious conspiracy, far-right violent militias like the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers. Now that Trump is president again, he doesn't need those groups because, well, he's got federal agents. He's got the Department of Homeland Security. But just as the vast majority of Americans felt appalled watching what happened on January 6th, they seem to feel the same way watching what is coming out of Minnesota. Trump seems to think that violence is this kind of trump card, that by unleashing violence on American cities, that he's going to win this battle. And I got to tell you, I don't think they will. In fact, I think they're already losing, and everything they're doing right now is a sign of weakness. Sherrilyn Ifill is the founding director of the 14th Amendment Center for Law and Democracy at Howard University. She's previously president and director counsel for the NAACP Legal Defense Fund, and she joins me now. Sherrilyn, let's start on the Insurrection Act. It has been invoked and deployed throughout American history. Weirdly, someone told Trump this at one point, and he likes to kind of keep repeating it as if, you know, that matters, because it doesn't. It's been a while since it was invoked. How seriously do you take the threat? Why do you think they keep waving it around?
First of all, I do take the threat seriously. And, I'm so glad you pointed out that Trump has threatened this before and threatened it in 2020. I mean, one thing I would just add to your excellent analysis, Chris, is that Trump, because he has no sense of democracy, of representation, he has no sense of what it means to be a true country, what the job of being the president is, he sees citizens as an annoyance unless they are telling him how wonderful he is. We saw it in the Ford plant yesterday or day before yesterday when a worker screamed something at him and Trump very just aggressively said, F you, and then gave him the finger. Like, he's not able to understand that that person is a citizen who is entitled to an opinion. And he's not able to understand that people in these jurisdictions who oppose his policies, who didn't vote for him, shouldn't in some way be subdued or punished. But I also think, Chris, that that these are kind of test runs for what Trump, I think, ultimately wants to do. It's hard to get your hands around some of the big cities, right? We saw what happened in Chicago, the kind of resistance that happened. We saw it in Los Angeles. I think they're casting about for a place they can get their hands around and use as an example. That's one of the reasons I think that they like to continue this in Minneapolis. And it doesn't surprise me that they're beginning to talk about some towns in Maine. They want to be able to exercise this power and to subdue an American city as part of kind of a dry run of being able to do this more broadly. But I want to salute the people of Minneapolis and St. Paul, of the Twin Cities, and across Minnesota, who have been amazing, who have exercised their First Amendment rights, who have tried to protect their community, who have not taken the bait. And I think you're right that this is Trump's problem. Trump's problem is we're all seeing in real time, because of all these citizens putting out these videos, who is the aggressor. And the Insurrection Act is to be invoked because there is an insurrection from the populace that the local law enforcement and the state law enforcement cannot manage. That's the purpose of the Insurrection Act. But it's so clear that the violence and the chaos is being perpetrated by the ICE agents. And until those images turn, until Trump is able to keep needling and provoke something that looks different, he's going to be in a pickle, because he doesn't have the kind of traction now to be able to support invoking the Insurrection Act.